Quick thank you to Randy Engel down at Under the Kitchen before we get things started for this week's game preview. Randy's got authentic Hawkeye prints, authentic artwork, deals with the likes of Caleb Johnson, Aaron Graves, and much, much more. Check it all out, underthekitchen.square.site, or you can also visit his Facebook page, Under the Kitchen on Facebook. The link is in our description. Makes for a great gift. So the Hawkeyes on the road up in East Lansing taking on Sparty. This is a Michigan State team we've talked about throughout the week. Of course, if you're not familiar with some of our work over at Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football, each and every Tuesday, we record an hour-long show with none other than Mark Rogers, the Voice of College Football. So certainly check out that hour-long preview as we chatted about the latest surrounding Iowa football and Iowa's trip to Michigan State. But one thing that's been a consistent theme throughout the week and in my discussion with Coach Don Patterson after the Washington game is that this Michigan State team is vulnerable, all right? This is a team that has a propensity for turning the ball over. Now, they have a pretty good defensive backfield, one that does create turnovers. They've picked off opponents 7 different times, but Michigan State as a whole is severely in the red in turnover margin this season. Aiden Childs, their quarterback, the Oregon State transfer. He came over with new head coach Jonathan Smith during the offseason. He is an electric guy, an athletic guy, but he's still trying to figure out the ropes. This is his first year really playing, and he's been going up against good competition, right? They got blown out by Ohio State, blown out by Oregon. I believe they lost those 2 games by a combined 52 points. So he will give it up, and he's going up against another terrific defense on Saturday night in Iowa. Here's the deal. I think Aiden Childs is going to struggle. I think Iowa will contain him. Iowa over the years has really evolved, and you got to give Phil Parker a lot of credit for how they've defended mobile quarterbacks. Of course, so many guys are mobile, right? But I remember the good old days of Dan Persa and those guys over at Northwestern causing Iowa issues with mobile quarterbacks, and it's just not the case anymore. Iowa does a really nice job having plenty of defensive linemen, first of all, to throw out there so your guys aren't gassed, but also having that middle linebacker that can contain the quarterback in a guy like Jay Higgins or Jack Campbell or Josie Jewell. So over the years, Phil Parker's proven that he's up to the task. His guys are up to the task in a game like this. Again, it's a young guy who has struggled to not turn the ball over. And that's really, I'll skip to my key right now. That's really the key for me. Can Iowa create a couple of early turnovers? If they do that, the route may be on. Now, I think Iowa's going to win this game regardless. But again, if they get a couple of early first half turnovers, I see this thing kind of being a freight train. Michigan State's not great on the defensive side of things. They are better statistically on defense than they are on offense. They've got a better pass defense than they do rush defense. I think Caleb Johnson will get his Michigan State's fringe top 50 in rush defense nationally. So I think he'll be able to run the ball effectively. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they have done a pretty good job of creating turnovers with that defensive backfield, and they've made things hard on opposing quarterbacks. I think if there's one area where you look at Michigan State and you're like, okay, they're above average in this area of the game, it's their pass defense. So we may just see another heavy dose of the ground game. Now, I talked heading into October about how I expected this passing game to evolve this month, and I thought it really took a step forward last week. More guys getting involved, Jarrett Bowie, Seth Anderson, Dayton Howard, and now it's got an opportunity on the road against a pretty good, not elite, but pretty good pass defense to create big plays. We're still looking for that shot over the top. I know it was asked of John Budmeyer, Iowa quarterbacks coach John Budmeyer, this week during our Zoom press conference. And John said, yeah, that's the next step for our quarterbacks to feel comfortable, specifically with Cade getting the ball to his receivers up over the top down the field. So maybe they get a shot at that. I think if they establish that run, that's always going to be their best bet. With this personnel and this scheme, it's their best bet of creating big plays in the passing game. But I do think Michigan State's got an opportunity to maybe make things hard on Iowa's receivers. But every other aspect of the game, you pretty much check off Iowa having the advantage. Maybe you give Michigan State a slight advantage in the kicking game, but boy, Reese Dakin, Drew Stevens have been really good. Michigan State's got an excellent punter. He's top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten, and I think he's top 3 or 4 nationally in punt average, somewhere in there. And their kicker, Jonathan Kim, is a really good kicker. He took the trip to Kinnick last year and impressed. He is perfect on the season, has not missed a field goal. So if there's any area of the game where Michigan State is elite, it's the kicking game. But I think Iowa's just as elite, really, really close at least. Drew Stevens missed just one kick. He's missed just one kick and that was a 50-plus yard field goal earlier this year. So expect Iowa to put pressure and make life miserable for Aiden Childs. I see Iowa's defense just wreaking havoc on that Michigan State offense that has struggled mightily to score and to move the ball consistently without turnovers. I remember that Ohio State game. I was not impressed with the Buckeyes against the Spartans, but Michigan State turned the ball over 3 times in the red zone. Just dumb turnovers at dumb times. So there are moments, again, with a really athletic quarterback and some decent skill position players. They got a good tight end, good linebacker on the defensive side in Jordan Turner, but they just make dumb mistakes at dumb times. And that's kind of the calling card of a young team, first-year head coach, that not everybody can be Signetti over at Indiana, right? Usually the first year is a project year. Now, here's something to watch, folks. Coming out of a bye week, maybe there'll be some wrinkles in there. There should be. They've had extra time to prepare for Iowa. But how about this? I mentioned this last Sunday in talking with Coach Patterson. Tommy Schuster. Look for that name. Now, he may not play much or at all, but he's the backup quarterback, and he put up huge numbers at North Dakota. He's a Michigan kid, but he's been in school since 2019, transferred in for one final season, got a chance to transfer to a Big Ten school. Aiden Childs is in the red as it relates to touchdown to interception ratio. And if you're going to make a quarterback change, you might make it out of a bye week. And maybe they give Aiden Childs some time. And then, hey, Tommy Schuster's ready as a more seasoned guy and someone that Iowa really doesn't have much tape on. Look for that to potentially happen. There's something to kind of a dark horse item to keep your eye on during this game. I will be giving you my score prediction in the morning, Saturday morning. I'm recording this here late Friday afternoon, but I think if Iowa can create turnovers, and by all accounts, the indicators are that Iowa will, because they're one of the best defenses in the country against one of the biggest turnover-prone offenses. I guess that's the best way to describe Sparty. And I just don't know where on the field they're going to make up for it. I don't think their kicking game is so good that it's going to be able to make up for all those errors. If they clean things up during the bye week, then yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough game on the road at night at East Lansing. It seems to always be, but this is not a good Michigan State team. I'm just saying that right now. It's been a while since I've been this confident about Iowa in any Big Ten game, And this one's on the road against a foe and that in the past has given Iowa struggles year after year after year. I'll be giving you my score prediction in the morning and then live after the game. It's a late night episode. Myself and Coach Don Patterson, Iowa postgame with Coach Don Patterson right here on YouTube from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Subscribe, hit that like button, folks. Turn the bell on so you know when we're going live. We'll be live taking your calls, taking your comments, taking your chats live after the Hawkeyes and the Spartans from East Lansing.